set.
This is Michael Faulkner, and it's showtime at the November 1st, 2011 edition of the Weekly Podioplex, brought to you by the Chronic Rift. Let's kick this off with last weekend's box office results, starting with number 10 and Courageous, back on the top 10 after slipping to 11th last week. At number 9 is Moneyball, dropping from 7th. In 8th place is The Ides of March, falling 3 spots from 5th. In 7th we find The Three Musketeers, down from 4th. And at 6th is Real Steel, slipping 4 places from last week's 2nd. In 5th place is new release The Rum Diary, premiering with $5 million. That's against a budget of $45 million. Ouch. In 4th place is Footloose, down 1 from last week's 3rd. Footloose brought in an additional $5.4 million for a total of $38 million over 3 weeks. In 3rd place is new release In Time, starting us from $12 million, which is less than the previous outings for stars Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried. Friends with Benefits started with $18.6 million, and Seyfried's Red Riding Hood started at $14 million. In 2nd is last week's winner, Paranormal Activity 3, scoring up another $18.5 million toward an $81.3 million total. Not bad for a $5 million budget, huh? But in the battle of cats versus spooky ghosts, the feline won. This week's top film is Puss in Boots, starting its box office run with $34 million. 51% of that box office take was for the 3D showings, where only 7% came from IMAX screens. But despite that big weekend, it was the 3rd worst premiere for DreamWorks Studios, beating Flushed Away and Ants. So what will November 4th bring to knock the top dog? Cat from number 1? It's all wide releases this week, starting with A Very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, a comedy starring Kal Penn, John Cho, and Neil Patrick Harris. 6 years after their Guantanamo Bay adventure, stoner buds Harold Lee and Kumar Patel cause a holiday fracas by inadvertently burning down Harold's father-in-law's prized Christmas tree. A Very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas is rated R. Next up is Tower Heist, an action comedy starring Eddie Murphy, Ben Stiller, and Casey Affleck. When a group of hardworking guys find out they've fallen victim to a wealthy businessman's Ponzi scheme, they conspire to rob his high-rise residence. Tower Heist is rated PG-13. And last on the slate is The Son of No One, a crime thriller starring Channing Tatum, Al Pacino, and Juliette Binoche. A young cop is assigned to a precinct in the working-class neighborhood where he grew up, and an old secret threatens to destroy his life and his family. The Son of No One is rated R. The November 1st home entertainment slate kicks off with Cars 2, an animated adventure movie starring Owen Wilson, Larry the Cable Guy, and Michael Caine. Star race car Lightning McQueen and his pal Mater head overseas to compete in the World Grand Prix race. But the road to the championship becomes rocky as Mater gets caught up in an intriguing adventure of his own, international espionage. Cars 2 is rated G. Next up is Crazy Stupid Love, a romantic comedy starring Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, and Julianne Moore. A father's life unravels while he deals with a marital crisis and tries to manage his relationship with his children. Crazy Stupid Love is rated PG-13. Next is Water for Elephants, a romantic drama starring Robert Pattinson, Reese Witherspoon, and Christoph Waltz. A veterinary student abandons his studies after his parents are killed and joins a traveling circus as their vet. Water for Elephants is rated PG-13. Next is Trespass, a crime drama starring Nicolas Cage, Nicole Kidman, and Cam Geeganday. As they're held for ransom, a husband and wife's predicament grows more dire amid the discovery of betrayal and deception. Trespass is rated R. And the new releases wind out with Tabloid, starring Kent Gavin, Dr. Hong, and Joyce McKinney. Tabloid is a documentary on a former Miss Wyoming who is charged with abducting and imprisoning a young Mormon missionary. Tabloid is rated R. Moving on to the TV on DVD slate, we start off with Californication Season 4, starring Evan Handler and David Duchovny. The Showtime original series Californication ended Season 3 with bad boy novelist Hank Moody being hauled off to jail for assaulting the boyfriend of his troublemaking, underage former fling Mia. His home life with Karen and Becca is in ruins, but the scandal surrounding the publication of his latest book has turned him into a hot Hollywood commodity, in more ways than one. Can Hank navigate the mess he's made of his life and come out on top? Next up is Transformers Beast Wars, the complete series, starring Scott Brady, Gary Chalk, and Ian James Corlett. In this Emmy Award-winning series, when the descendants of the treacherous Decepticons, now known as Predacons, land on a mysterious planet in search of the powerful crystal fuel Energon, it's up to Optimus Primal and the historic Maximals to stop them before they conquer the universe. And last on the TV on DVD slate, we have Rawhide, the 4th season, Volume 2, starring James Murdoch, Eric Fleming, and Clint Eastwood. Rawhide is the tale of a trail boss, Gil Favor, and rugged cowhand Rowdy Yates driving cattle across the Old West while meeting up with adventure and drama along the way. Moving on to classics on Blu-ray this week, we have the Toy Story trilogy in 3D. Disney and Pixar are releasing the box set of the 3D Blu-rays of the Toy Story trilogy. The box set contains Toy Story from 1995. A cowboy toy is profoundly threatened and jealous when a fancy spaceman toy supplants him as the top toy in a boy's room. Next up is Toy Story 2 from 1999. When Woody is stolen by a toy collector, Buzz and his friends vow to rescue him, but Woody finds the idea of immortality in a museum tempting. And it rounds out with Toy Story 3 from 2010. The toys are mistakenly delivered to a daycare center instead of the attic, right before Andy leaves for college, and it's up to Woody to convince the other toys that they weren't abandoned and to return home. Each film in the Toy Story trilogy stars Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and Don Rickles, and are rated G. Next on our list is Scrooge from 1988, a comedic drama starring Bill Murray, Karen Allen, and John Forsythe. A cynically selfish TV executive gets haunted by three spirits bearing listens on Christmas Eve. Scrooged is rated PG-13. Next is The Big Country from 1958, a western starring Gregory Peck, Gene Simmons, and Carol Baker. A New Englander arrives in the Old West where he becomes embroiled in a feud between two families over a valuable patch of land. The Big Country is not rated. Next up is The Phantom of the Opera from 1925, a silent film starring Lon Chaney, Mary Philbin, and Norman Carey. A mad, disfigured composer seeks love with a lovely young opera singer. The Phantom of the Opera is not rated. Next up is Hook from 1991, a comedic adventure starring Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams, and Julia Roberts. When Captain Hook kidnaps his children, an adult Peter Pan must return to Neverland and reclaim his youthful spirit in order to challenge his old enemy. Hook is rated PG. And last on our list is Quigley Down Under from 1990, a western starring Tom Selleck, Laura San Giacomo, and Alan Rickman. Sharpshooter Matt Quigley is hired from Montana by an Australian rancher paying a very high price. But when Quigley arrives down under, all is not as it seems. Quigley Down Under is rated PG-13. Let's wrap this up with two items in the Quick Flicks. It's been 15 years since Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum saved the world in Independence Day, which grossed $800 million globally. So it goes without saying that distributor Fox would like another piece of that pie. However, they're not content with just one slice. Fox is preparing to produce two back-to-back sequels, and Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin are supposedly close to completing their screenplays. There are no plot details to discuss, but they supposedly will work independently to tell a large story in two parts. The template is something similar to Back to the Future Parts 2 and 3 instead of, say, the Matrix sequels. The big gamble is whether or not Will Smith is on board. Fox started to negotiate, but was unhappy with his demand of $50 million. Fox wants him back, but they're willing to do the films without him. During an interview with Empire magazine promoting Tintin, Steven Spielberg dished a little on the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and how he really didn't like the story much more than the majority of the fans. You have to ask George Lucas, he said. George is in charge of breaking the stories. He's done it on all four movies. Whether I like the stories or not, George has broken all the stories. He's working on Indy 5. We haven't gotten a screenplay yet, but he's working on the story. I'll leave it to George to come up with a good story. He did defend the movie, but did say there were some aspects he didn't care for. I'm very happy with the movie, and always have been, he continued. I sympathize with people who didn't like the MacGuffin because I never really liked the MacGuffin. George and I had big arguments about the MacGuffin. I didn't want these things to be aliens or interdimensional beings, but I'm loyal to my best friend. When he writes a story he believes in, even if I don't believe in it, I'm going to shoot the movie the way George envisioned it. I'll add my own touches, I'll bring my own cast in, I'll shoot the way I want to shoot it, but I will always defer to George as the storyteller of the Indy series. I will never fight him on that. However, he did express significant pride in one of the elements in the film becoming an internet meme. Quote, what people really jumped at was Indy climbing into a refrigerator and getting blown into the sky by an atom bomb blast. Blame me. Don't blame George. That was my silly idea. People stopped saying jump the shark. They now say nuked the fridge. I'm proud of that. I'm glad I was able to bring that into popular culture. Unquote. If you want to discuss anything you heard on this week's edition, please take a moment to get in touch. You can surf on over to chronicleriff.com and leave a note in the forums. You can leave a voicemail at 888-866-9010, or you can write to John at chronicleriff.com. You can follow us on Tumblr, tweet us on Twitter, check into the network on GetGlue, and leave us a review on iTunes. You can also find the Weekly Podioplex and the Chronic Rift on Facebook. We are all over this internet. If you decide to pick up any of this week's new releases, why not do it through our Amazon store? You get the newest entertainment at Amazon's low prices and high-quality service, and each purchase you make through the store supports the Chronic Rift. Look for the link in our show notes. The Weekly Podioplex is a collaboration of Criticality and Lucky Shot Productions. This is Michael Faulkner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you at the theater.